temperature stays the same inside. There's actually a mechanical system that keeps the fresh air coming through. It's a healthy way to live. There's no mould, no heat transfer and cold transfer from outside. It means that over the lifetime of that house, the amount of energy it's going to use is going to be minimal compared to the way we build our houses now.
Yeah.
Now, if we all built our houses like that, if the rule said you have to build your house according to these standards, especially for people, think about social housing, you know, often it's the people with the least amount of resources who need the most assistance end up with the worst possible design outcomes because people don't want to spend the money on it.
Because the people that build them had no intention of ever living in it. I think about that a lot because my street has been transformed pretty much the day COVID started, and I'm on the front porch reading a book. God, what am I going to do in my life? Demolished, and like the demolishing kind of started. I don't know why just then. But it was an old street in Melville, and it was all the little cottages on a full acre block, quarter acre block, with a jacaranda tree or in a shed and a hill's way. That was the whole street. Now, it's 3 houses where there was one. This poor driveway, it's white. But the people that bought it and subdivided had no intention of living in that house. They just happened to be their dad died or something, and then they could finally demolish it, put that there, rent it off, and then go to Broome or something. And I think if people had to live in the house they built, like if that was a rule, you got to live there for 2 years before you can get rented out or something, maybe that would be an interesting design change.
Well, that is a topic very close to my heart because infill is a big issue. You know, we need infill. Good infill is good. Bad infill is catastrophic. And that is bad infill because, you know, we've done a lot of talking around this and there is some changes in policy that are trying to address some of these problems. You get the block, you absolutely raise everything to the ground, and then it's actually building by numbers. You look at the building codes, you look at what you're allowed to build, you build the maximum amount of building that you're allowed to build on the site. You don't think about all the things like deep planting zones, cross ventilation, light.
Yeah.
So the thing that breaks my heart about that is you're subjecting people to live in really poorly designed houses. Yeah. And it's not enjoyable to live in a house that's got no fresh air. You can't see a tree. It's boiling hot. You have to have the aircon on all the time. It uses so much energy. It ends up costing you a lot of money. Like the tree thing, you know, trees, the tree canopy thing is a big issue. We know that trees just make us feel good.
5 degrees cooler around a tree.
So why do we not actually legislate to say you have to have a tree? And in fact, there is movement in that direction, so that's positive. But yeah, I mean, this design by numbers, it's not a good thing. We should be designing, you know, it comes again back to that thing about the more than human design. So we've got to think about who else needs to live on this piece of land. We need bees, we need birds, we need trees, we need ecosystems there to keep the whole suburb healthy and to keep all of us healthy. So health is a big driver really for design, I think, as well.
And so who do you take that message to? You know, what's some of the stakeholders that you might go and consult with or talk to and then try to integrate these ideas?
Well, really, in 2020, I founded Design Freer with some other local designers and design creatives. Our aim is to build from the ground up. So we try and talk to the public and talk to everyday people and tell the stories that we as professionals often hear that people don't necessarily get to hear themselves. I don't think it's hard for people because everything around us is design and we are constantly making design decisions every day. I mean, what am I going to buy when I go to the shop? I'm going to buy this or I'm not going to buy that. That is a design decision. So I don't think it's hard for people to engage with design because it's close to all of us. So it's telling those stories in a way that people become interested, that people want to hear about. And I think it's trying to drive change from the bottom up and sort of help people to make better decisions really and make informed decisions and think, well, actually, I might have bought that before, but I'm actually not going to now. And I'm not going to knock down that tree, or I don't want to buy this house because it's awful. And helping people understand, showing examples of good design and also explaining to people that it's not expensive. Good design doesn't mean it's expensive. Good design just means it's been thought through properly and it's been possibly designed by a designer.
Yeah.
Someone who's had some training in whatever discipline that is. And even if you don't have any training, you can still make better decisions if you've got a bit more knowledge, can't you, about why you would want to do something. So, when I'm thinking about redesigning my house or doing renovation, how can I make sure that I get just small things can actually make a big difference. So that's kind of our mission, because we can't talk to everyone. So we really see ourselves as being between the profession and the public, and just exchanging information and providing a platform so that people can share the information that they have with other people and have those conversations. And it's great. We really love it. We have great conversations with people all the time. And certainly in Fremantle, our organisation is called Design Frio. There are so many amazing designers in Fremantle. Our design community is very, very rich and diverse. We sort of punch above our weight in a lot of ways. Particularly in architecture, we've got a lot of, global standard architects here. And so being able to give those people a chance to tell their stories to other people is what we do. We're a platform for sharing information, really. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we run our design festival every second year, and we try to bring some people from, we're bringing someone from LA who's doing some world building kind of future-focused, quite pointy-end sort of work. And then we also just like to tell the local stories and who's making things here, who's doing things here, who's trying to change things here. And so it's bringing that sort of global ideas and then a local focus. We've got a lot of smart people here doing a lot of amazing things. So let's share that.
It's nice to hear about that industry, because often, especially in film industry, we hear about brain drain. People that grew up here, raised here, fell in love with the industry, got their skills, found there was no opportunities, or no one would listen to what they were trying to do, or it sounded just crazy to their family and friends, so they had to go somewhere else. So are you saying that there's design, we can become like a hub for design, and Frio can sort of wear that on its sleeve?
Well, that's something that we love to say. Design lives here. I think Fremantle, we know, has always had a reputation as an artistic and creative community. So this is just another layer of creativity that we have here that we should celebrate and that we should share and talk about. I certainly see it as part of the Fremantle brand that, we are a design city.
Yeah.
That's something that we're trying to really, promote and expand, because most of us leave and then come back. A lot of us leave and come back. You grow up, you go to uni, or you work, or you do whatever you do. You go travelling, you either end up working overseas, or you just spend an extended period of time travelling, and then you come back. It's not like we're all just sitting here stuck in our own little world.
Yeah.
We're all, and of course now we're hyper connected to the world because of the internet. So an example that I might use is this rewilding movement, which is this idea about actually just letting the land return to its natural state. So instead of thinking everything has to be planted and has to be landscaped and has to be kind of touched by the human hand, what about if we just let it go back to its natural state? Well, that is a real transition in thinking, isn't it? Because to drive past a pile of kind of messy weeds and stuff that's just growing and not think, oh, that's a mess, but to think, oh, isn't that wonderful? That's just, nature reestablishing itself, is a good example of just switching that thinking and trying to reimagine the way that we see the world. Kind of digressing a bit here, but
I'm picturing in my head Chernobyl. I'm just saying that. I guess that's the extreme version of what rewilding looks like.
Well, that's a very interesting point. I mean, I think it's a little bit funny because we just went to, myself and one of our team went to Europe, and we went and looked at a lot of examples of rewilding in places where people are doing depaving and ripping up paving and bringing nature back into urban environments. But, it's a bit hard in Perth because in midsummer everything's looking a bit brown and dead.
Yeah,
it's not like it's not the waving poppies that you see when you're in Holland.
Yeah, or dropping like oranges in your lap from in Greece and Spain.
Yeah, what does rewilding and depaving look like for us here? And we are going to be doing some projects. We're talking now with a few of us in the community, in different parts of the community, about how we can start doing that here and what that looks like. So that's a great example of taking a global idea and then thinking, well, how does that work locally? We're not Copenhagen. We're not Amsterdam, we're not London. We have a very different climate. We have a different type of urban environment. We have a much smaller population. So how do we take those very great ideas and then invent them and sort of reinterpret them where we are? I find that really endlessly fascinating because we are in Western Australia, Fremantle, uniquely isolated, aren't we? We are a long way from anywhere else. So even where we get our materials from, where we buy things, what we make here, we have to think about the miles that things have to travel and what have we got here that we can use that's going to be the best for the planet and minimising energy or resource consumption. So how do we, in Western Australia and in our town here, how do we make those design decisions around our unique kind of location and set of problems that we have with the heat and with the climate and with all the various things that we have?
If you're successful in your mission, what's the top 3 things you'd like to see fully integrated into our community?
I would like to see design taken seriously so that every decision-making body at every level of government has a head of design, so that it was always a consideration, because I think that's the problem. Often there isn't that consultation with design professionals when there's decision-making being done. And so you do see that in other countries. In some places they have a head of design within their council or within their government or whatever. And it applies, as I said, I'm not just talking about how we do our buildings and our parks. I'm talking about how we do our systems and how we write our policies and everything that we do to solve problems. It'd be great if we just had a bit more design input into that, and then we wouldn't have terrible urban sprawl and horrible infill and badly designed houses. And, it's a big mission. It's a long game.
I guess that's it. And it sounds like you've tried a few different things and then ended up going, this has to be with policymakers.
But I think what we think is if everyone is a little bit more tuned in, I mean, if you go to somewhere like Denmark, the Danish have got a long cultural association with design. They're a bit more design savvy, aren't they? And design is really celebrated as part of their culture. It's part of the identity of the country. Danish design, the two words go together. So it's, for the everyday person, I think there's a little bit more understanding of the value of, making something out of good materials and making it elegant and making it very functional. It's more ingrained in their culture. So I guess that's what we're interested in doing, is just building design culture, which isn't going to happen overnight. But by telling stories and sharing information, that hopefully will encourage people. The government will keep doing things until they think they're going to lose power or they think that the people are unhappy. So hopefully if everyone is a little bit more aware over time of what, people deserve good design. That's what I find most distressing, is that everyone, we know how to do it.
Okay. We
know how to do it. There's no reason why we shouldn't design things well. It doesn't mean it's going to be more expensive. We know how to design well. And everyone deserves to have a well-designed environment to live in.
It's funny, you're crazy how you're saying taste changes and evolves, because you just go visit your grandparents and look at their brown and orange carpet and you're like, who made this? Like, Grandma, what were you thinking? She's like, this was cool at the time.
Trends come and go, and I think that is something that we'll talk about in our panel conversation at Design Week. It's our last conversation. What is good design? Fashion, yes, of course there is fashion and there's trends and there's all the rest of it. But then again, if the carpet's made out of good quality material, the colour is one thing, but the fact that it's not going to wear out, or you're not going to have to rip it up and throw it in the bin, those types of things. How do we make things that have got some integrity to them? We all know it's no news to anyone that we have a sort of throwaway culture and consumer culture where people buy something and they think, I'll buy the cheap one because when it breaks, I'll just throw it out and then I'll buy another cheap one rather than buying the expensive one. So you get that with the washing machine. I had the guy come to my house one day and I had this nice German washing machine that was, I'd had for... And he said, don't buy that one again, just buy the cheap one, and then when it breaks, just throw it out and get a new one. And I just thought, well, that's a dumb idea, isn't it? Like, the mentality of that.
Yeah.
But, you know, you can't, it's a long, slow process to